So now I'd like to take just a moment to formally introduce past International President John Germ. John is a member of the Rotary Club of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and he's the chair of the International Polio Plus Committee. A Rotary member since 1976, John has served Rotary as a vice president, director, foundation trustee, and vice chair. And John has served as our Rotary International president in 2016-17. He is a recipient of Rotary Service Above Self Award, Rotary Foundation Citation for Meritorious Service, and Distinguished Service Awards. He and his wife Judy are members of the Arch Clump Society. So let's stand and give John a rousing Lincoln 14 welcome. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Mick. It's great to be with a club that is about to celebrate 110 years of service to the community. You know, your club is a strong club. It's one that has been involved locally and globally. And looking at your website and looking at some of the projects that you've done, and the dictionary project, which was a favorite project of mine many years ago, when you can take a book and give it to a dictionary, give it to a third or fourth grade student. In your case, I think you do it to fourth grade. They put their name in there, and all of a sudden that becomes personal property, and that may be the only book that those individuals have. The birthday books for elementary school libraries, and thank you for the book that you're donating in my name. I think that is a wonderful thing. I would encourage you also to start looking at a program that Dolly Parton has, which is called the Imagination Library, where you can furnish a book from birth to age 5 of a child that will be mailed to that person's house. If they move, the postman brings it back and sends it back up to the Dollywood people, and you get a list of those people. So you also get a list of all those mothers and daddies that are having babies, so you got a good recruiting opportunity to do that. But you know, you've also been involved internationally, and you're working with your international student picnic you've got. But I think that, you know, your World Community Service is what got my attention when you do work in, you know, Dominican Republic with computers and water projects, Nambia, Guatemala, and I've been to Guatemala, so I've seen some of the great work that's going on there, and also to Zambia. But your ride for polio, that's very important to me, obviously, because one of the things we are trying to do is to eradicate polio. It's a project we started many years ago, so we're still with it. But, you know, as we're meeting here today by Zoom, you've been meeting continually since you were chartered, and so now then you're meeting by Zoom. So, you know, I think we could say to ourselves, if we're not careful, our lives have been disruptive, and there's no question about that. You're disruptive when you get ready to go to the grocery store. You wear a mask or hands, cover your hands. We're disruptive in the fact that up until recently, we couldn't go out to eat in a restaurant. We're disruptive in the fact that schools have been disrupted, and I'm not sure what's going to happen when our kids go back, or grandkids go back to school. How far behind are they going to be? Because homeschooling to me, is just not the same as being there and having that teacher to help you. I heard a story the other day where a student, the teacher was expelling one of the students, and then she wanted to have a parent-teacher conference. So, you know, she was the teacher, she was the parent. So, you know, that's disrupting the family life too, with what's going on there. So, but I think what we have to say is, let's be innovative. Let's take this disruption and let's look at how we could improve what we do. You couldn't have international guests if you wasn't doing it by Zoom. And you hear what's happening in these other countries. So we've become closer as an organization. And as Maloney says, Rotary connects the world. And, you know, I was privileged to have a great convention in Atlanta. And I'm sorry for Mark that he's not going to have that convention in Honolulu. But yet, on the other hand, he's going to have a virtual convention. Every day of that week, we're going to have plenary sessions. We're going to have breakout sessions. And actually, I had a breakout session in July, and I sent them an email back. I said, you don't do breakout sessions in July. The convention's in June. Well, it's going to be in July. This breakout session is going to be in July. So let's think about how can we turn life around? How can we do things differently and still accomplish what we're trying to do? Just like you did with the pizza thing the other night for the gathering place. Because you saw the need, you responded to it, so you've took that opportunity to do it. So let's be optimistic. Let's do things that we think out of the box. And as we talk about thinking out of the box, I guess I go back to 1979 when a president named Sir Clem Renoff, and he read about smallpox being eradicated, which was the first disease that's ever been eradicated. And he says, is there something of this magnitude that Rotary could do? And up until then, Rotary only worked with the community projects and never really looked at international projects and what they could do. And for a 3H grant, Health, Hunger, and Humanity grant of $760,000, Rotary agreed to provide the vaccine to vaccinate 6 million children in the Philippines. 6 million children. And that project ended up being successful. So then Rotary went to the World Health Alliance and said, hey, why don't we do this on a worldwide basis? And they said, no, we don't partner with non-governmental organizations because there's no continuity. There's nothing there that's going to say that you can finish this job that you started with. But let me tell you, because of your commitment, the work that you've done through the Ride for Polio and other gifts that you've given to the polio effort, today there are more than 650,000 paralytic cases that's avoided every year. Every year. 19 million individuals who otherwise could have been crippled and paralyzed are now walking. And I never will forget meeting a lady in Nigeria. And I was over there for National Immunization Day, and she came to this long table where we were standing behind to put those 2 drops in a child's mouth. And I didn't speak her language, and she didn't speak mine. But after I put those 2 drops in that child's mouth, she looked up at me with that universal thank you and smiled. She knew that Rotary had been there to do something for her. Now, you weren't there to put those 2 drops in, but I was, and I did it on your behalf because of what you've contributed to the eradication of polio. We still need to vaccinate, though, over 400 million children per year. So you don't have polio in Nebraska. We don't have it in Tennessee, but it could come back on an airplane. If you don't think about that, just think about what happened in Los Angeles not too long ago when there was an outbreak of measles. Came in from overseas because we had not completed our job. Our job is to eradicate polio. 2013, I was in India when we declared India polio free. People thought that India was going to be the last country that would be polio free because of the massive number of people that they have there. But the government, the Rotarians, the religious leaders, all got behind this effort. And because they got behind it, India has been polio free since 2013. That's a wonderful, wonderful accomplishment. We're now we've gone from 1,000 cases a day in 125 countries to 3 countries: Nigeria, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. Nigeria has not had a case since August of 2016. We anticipate that Nigeria will be declared polio free this year. Probably would have already been declared polio free if we hadn't been stymied in some of our visitations, and if the epidemiologists could have gotten to some of these countries to certify that their testing is correct, their surveillance is correct, and if they're polio free, the entire continent of Africa. And then we have to look over to Afghanistan and Pakistan. COVID, which is very similar to polio in a way, in the fact that it's transmitted person to person, has disrupted what we're trying to do with eradication of polio. But while it has been disruptive, the number of cases this year has decreased. So far this year has decreased. But on the other hand, we have not been able to reach a lot of people in the remote villages. We can no longer do the house-to-house work because of the personal contact that is necessary. We've had to stop the work at the airport, the bus stations, train stations, which was what really helped us get polio out of India. So we've had to stop some of that. But we haven't stopped. We're using our surveillance teams to help with COVID. We're using our vaccine carriers to help carry stool samples to the laboratories that Rotary helped build in order to check for the COVID, see if it can be isolated. We spend $850 million a year. $850 million a year on a virus we don't have in America, but it could be, as I said earlier. So let's think about what we have to do to continue to do our job. We have done this before when Ebola was big, yellow fever was big, the avian flu was there, but yet it was polio's infrastructure that helped get rid of those viruses. So we can do the same thing here. One advantage we have over COVID is that we have a vaccine. It's just a matter of getting that vaccine delivered to the children. Years ago, 1985, we promised the children of the world that we would in fact eradicate polio. So we're providing brochures now, billboards on how you wash your hands. And I remember one time I was in India, then I was also in a couple other countries, and they have a song that's called Wishy Wishy Washy, Washy Washy Washy. It talks about how you wash your hands, because that's how these diseases, these viruses are transmitted, is very poor sanitation, very poor hygiene. So if we could do something like that we've done in the past, we could do it again. Rotary stepped up in COVID. To date, we've done 166 global grants, 161 disaster grants, for a total of $18 million, almost $19 million that we've done for COVID, plus all the work that's been done by the local clubs and what you're doing within each of your communities. But we can't forget that Rotary's project of the highest priority is determined by the board, the trustees, the Council of Legislation, is the eradication of polio. Well, in 2007, we had an individual that sent Rotary $100 million. $100 million by wire transfer in November of 2007. There was two stipulations from this grant, which came from the Gates Foundation. Number one, and I want you to remember this, is in 2007. We had to spend that money by December the 31st of 2008. He asked us to raise $100 million by December of 2010. So I was meeting with Bill one time up in New York at a meeting, and I said, and by the way, we didn't even have a chairman, we didn't have a campaign. We had no idea what we were going to do, except we knew we had a commitment and we had to do it. And I asked him, I said, why did you give that money to Rotary? And he said, because Rotary has the passion. Rotary has the commitment. And Rotary has the stewardship to be sure that those funds are spent properly, effectively, and efficiently. Well, we had raised about half of that money. And he came to us and said, I'll give you another 150 million if you'll do another 100 million. So I got a call and I said, well, what do you think about this offer? And I said, well, I'm not going to tell him no. Let's just go out there and raise the money. So thanks to you, and I think y'all gave over $60,000 to that campaign, if my memory serves me right. We raised 228.7. He has continued to be a big cheerleader. He has continued to visit countries, to talk to the leaders of these countries, to advocate on behalf of the eradication of polio. Today, we have a challenge for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that if we do $50 million, he will give us 100. As of today, we have $35 million that we have raised toward our 50 million. So we got a little over a month to get the other 15 million. We have an anonymous donor that has agreed to give $1 million as a match. So people are interested in helping Rotary because they know Rotary is committed. They know that we have a vaccine that can do it. And I'm going to read you something that Bill Gates said. This was in Atlanta in 2017. Quote, fighting a disease is like fighting fire. It's not enough to put out most of it. You have to get it off. Rotary's generous pledge to the Global Polio Eradication Initiative will help us extinguish this terrible disease for good. And that's what we have to continue to do. A lot of people have gone on these NIDs. A lot of people have witnessed what I have of being able to put those 2 drops in a child's mouth. Jim Bomar was the president of Rotary when he went to the Philippines to put those 2 drops in that child's mouth in 1979. Jim was from Tennessee. He was from my district. And he told me when I was doing my club visits, he said, you know, when I was giving those drops, I'm careful not to miss that child's mouth. Little girl. He said, I kept feeling something pulling at my pants. So he said, I looked down after I got through and there was a crawler. Hands underneath, legs bent, hand on my pants. And he said, thank you, mister. That's my sister. She will not be paralyzed as I am. So what was that little boy saying? He was saying, yes, you made a commitment. And you weren't there. I wasn't there. I have visited that site in Manila. But yes, you were there because of your contributions to the polio campaign. So someone years ago, in some cases, 3 new members just recently, gave us an opportunity to become a Rotarian, to do good in the world. But with that opportunity came an obligation. That obligation was to ask someone else to become a Rotarian. And you've done a great job with over 20 new members this year, plus 20 or 22, whatever. So you've done a great job, but let us take that opportunity and send it to other people. Let's reach out. There are many needs in all of our communities. We could probably go 2 or 3 blocks from where you meet, and we'll find people that cannot read the prescriptions, the directions on their prescriptions they're taking. They're taking them because somebody told them what to do. Think about these kids. Think about the project that you've got at the gathering place. Think about a lot of those things that you're doing. Congratulations on a great year. Congratulations on what you've done. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for what you're doing. But more importantly, thank you for what you're going to do. The world needs Rotary more than ever. So thank you for letting me be with you for a few minutes today.
Oh, wow, you're outstanding. Thank you so much. I would stand up, but I'd wake my puppy up. Sorry. No reflection on Rotary at all. That was magnificent. Thank you, John, for really encapsulating what a Rotarian is and how we can really impact the world.